the NFL didn't just get a Pro Bowl replacement. It may have just found its next ratings machine. When news broke that Shedeur Sanders was added to the Pro Bowl roster, most people treated it like a routine alternate announcement. A fifth-round rookie stepping in. Nice story. Good for him. But within hours, the numbers told a completely different story. Viewership spiked. Social engagement exploded. Clips flooded timelines. And insiders began whispering about something they're now calling the Shedeur effect. The Pro Bowl, an event that struggled for relevance for years, suddenly became must-watch television the moment he stepped on the field. That's not hype, that's leverage. Reports indicate the broadcast peaked at nearly double last year's concurrent viewership. And according to internal chatter, the exact moment Shedeur entered the game saw a dramatic spike in engagement. Coincidence, or proof that star power still runs this league? Because here's the reality. The NFL isn't just a football business anymore. It's an attention business. And attention follows certain names. The legacy angle doesn't hurt either. When your father is Shedeur Sanders, one of the most electrifying personalities in football history, cameras are already rolling before you take your first snap. But legacy alone doesn't sustain ratings. Performance does. And that's where things get interesting. This wasn't just about an exhibition appearance. It followed a rookie debut in Cleveland that snapped a nearly 30-year quarterback curse. A fifth-round pick, originally projected to sit and develop, suddenly stepping into the spotlight and delivering composure instead of chaos. Now zoom out. A franchise once labeled a quarterback graveyard is trending nationally. The Pro Bowl gets a ratings jolt. National schedule makers are reportedly paying attention, and a player who wasn't even supposed to start this season is suddenly shifting conversations about market value, primetime slots, and future leverage. That's bigger than one game. The real question is whether Shedeur belongs in a Pro Bowl. It's whether the NFL just witnessed the early stages of its next headline quarterback, the kind networks build schedules around. Because if the momentum we're seeing is real, Cleveland didn't just win a game. They might have changed the power dynamic. For years, the Pro Bowl felt like background noise. Ratings dipped, players opted out. Fans treated it like a casual Sunday scroll instead of appointment viewing. It became more about skills challenges and flag football highlights than actual star power. Then Shedeur Sanders stepped onto the field. And suddenly, people were watching. Reports indicate that the Pro Bowl broadcast peaked at roughly 4.6 million concurrent viewers, a significant jump compared to recent years. Even more eye-opening, industry chatter suggests that engagement surged dramatically the moment Shedeur entered the game. That's not just participation. That's gravitational pull. The NFL lives and breathes on numbers. Network executives monitor spikes in real time. They don't guess. They measure. And when one player's presence aligns directly with a ratings surge, that gets logged. Quickly, it's the same formula we've seen before. Certain quarterbacks don't just win games, they move markets. They elevate time slots. They reshape broadcast value. And Cleveland hasn't had that kind of gravitational presence at quarterback in decades. What makes this even more interesting is context. Shedeur wasn't a first-round golden boy handed the spotlight. He was a fifth-round selection, a developmental project, a maybe in 2 years kind of pick. Yet here he is, already influencing national metrics. That changes perception. Because in today's NFL, visibility equals leverage. Primetime assignments aren't sympathy gestures. They're revenue plays. If one Pro Bowl appearance generated this kind of digital ripple, imagine what a full season of competitive performances could do. That's where schedule makers start circling dates. That's where broadcast partners start projecting value. And that's where organizations begin to realize they might be sitting on something much bigger than a feel-good rookie story. But ratings alone don't sustain momentum. There has to be something real underneath the hype. And that takes us back to the game that started this entire shift. Here, what makes this even louder? The Pro Bowl spike didn't happen in isolation. It followed a moment that Cleveland fans had been waiting nearly 3 decades to see. A rookie quarterback winning his first start. The last time that happened for the Browns, 1995. Let that sink in. 17 rookie quarterbacks stepped onto that field over the years chasing hope. 17 walked off with losses. It became more than a statistic. It became a psychological weight hanging over the franchise. Quarterback graveyard, that was the label. And then Shedeur Sanders walked into that storm and didn't flinch. When the starter went down with a season-ending issue, the plan flipped overnight. The 5th-round development project was suddenly QB1. No easing in, no quiet growth year, real snaps, real stakes. That kind of spotlight has crushed late-round rookies before. But against the Raiders, he looked composed. The stat line, 209 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, on paper solid, not spectacular. But stats don't measure command. They don't show how calm his eyes were when pressure collapsed the pocket. They don't capture how he reset after the interception without spiraling. They don't quantify the deep 52-yard strike to Isaiah Bond that sliced through tight coverage and shifted the entire energy inside the stadium. That throw wasn't safe. It wasn't conservative. It was confident. And confidence in that moment matters more than raw numbers. Because Cleveland didn't just get a win that day. They snapped a narrative. A 24-10 victory over the Raiders doesn't usually register nationally, but this one felt different. It felt like a franchise reboot. The defense, led by a dominant pass rush, delivered 10 sacks. They controlled the tempo, but what stood out was how the rookie operated within structure. No panic, no reckless hero ball, just controlled execution. That's maturity. And when a late-round rookie steps into a historically cursed situation and plays with poise instead of fear, the league notices. Suddenly, that Pro Bowl spike makes more sense. Because fans weren't tuning in randomly. They were tuning in to see if the belief was real. Now let's address the elephant in the room. The last name matters. When your father is Shedeur Sanders, attention isn't optional, it's automatic. Cameras follow, headlines write themselves, expectations double overnight. But here, the key difference. Legacy opens the door. Performance keeps it open. There were whispers during the draft process. Some critics suggested Shedeur benefited from name recognition. Others questioned whether his college production would translate at the pro level. Sliding to the 5th round only amplified those doubts. But what's happening now is flipping that narrative. Because the spotlight didn't shrink when he entered the NFL, it intensified. And instead of fatting under it, he's leaning into it. Preseason numbers already hinted at this. A preseason appearance reportedly pulled over 2 million viewers, the highest-rated preseason broadcast on NFL Network in nearly a decade. That's not normal for a developmental rookie. That's draw. And in today's league, draw equals value. Networks aren't sentimental, they're strategic. If a quarterback brings engagement spikes, social traction, and appointment viewing energy, primetime slots follow. Monday nights, Sunday nights, national windows. There's already chatter about the Browns potentially receiving more high-profile games next season. That's not coincidence. It's market response. But here, what makes this different from pure hype? He's not just trending because of his father. He's trending because the tape is backing it up. Poise in the pocket, balanced footwork, command at the line, A deep ball that forces defensive coordinators to adjust coverage schemes. Those aren't legacy traits, those are quarterback traits. And that's when things get serious. Because once performance aligns with marketability, the NFL machine moves fast. Cleveland isn't just gaining attention, they're gaining leverage. And that shifts the entire conversation about what this franchise could become. But here, where this story quietly turns explosive. Because this isn't just about football anymore. It's about business. The NFL runs on attention. And right now, Shedeur Sanders is generating it at a level most veterans never touch. Social clips from his debut flooded timelines within minutes. Debate shows led with his name. Analysts who barely mentioned Cleveland all offseason suddenly had full segments dedicated to one rookie. That kind of traction isn't random. It's momentum. And momentum in today's NFL equals money. Jersey sales are reportedly surging. The number 12 is flying off shelves in Cleveland at a pace insiders are calling historic for a rookie. And here's what that really means. Fans aren't just curious, they're investing. When someone buys a quarterback's jersey, they're buying belief. For years, Browns merchandise symbolized loyalty through frustration. Now it symbolizes possibility. That emotional shift is massive. It changes how the franchise is perceived nationally. Sponsors notice it. Broadcast partners notice it. Even free agents notice it. Because players want to join upward trajectories. And Cleveland suddenly feels like one. Primetime games aren't awarded out of sympathy. They're given to teams that pull ratings. If one rookie appearance caused major spikes in engagement, imagine a full season of consistent production. The Browns could realistically move from regional coverage to national fixture. That changes revenue streams. That changes negotiation power. That changes how ownership operates in long-term roster building. And here's the part executives are quietly watching. If Shedeur sustains this level of performance and attention, Cleveland's brand value skyrockets. A quarterback who blends performance, personality, and market appeal is rare. And rare assets shift power structures fast. This is how franchises go from rebuilding to relevant almost overnight. But all of that still depends on one thing: consistency. Because hype is temporary. Trajectory is earned. Now the conversation is changing. It's no longer, can he survive? It's how high is the ceiling? And that shift happened fast. When Shedeur was drafted in the 5th round, most analysts labeled him a developmental piece, long-term project, backup potential, maybe a spot starter if things broke right. The expectation was patience, film study, slow growth behind a veteran. That timeline just got accelerated. Because what he showed wasn't raw survival, it was command. Command in the huddle, command at the line, command after mistakes. That's the stuff scouts obsess over. The deep ball accuracy, impressive. The pocket movement, encouraging. But the emotional control, that's the separator. When he threw that interception, the cameras didn't catch panic. They caught composure, tablet in hand, calm discussion, resetting, no visible spiral, no frustration meltdown. That's quarterback wiring. And wiring determines ceiling more than arm strength ever will. Around the league, defensive coordinators are already adjusting their notes, because now there's film, now there's evidence, now there's proof that he's not just hype carried by a famous last name. He processed pressure. He attacked tight windows. He trusted his reads. That forces defenses to respect you differently. And respect changes coverages. Coverages open opportunities. Opportunities build numbers. Numbers build legitimacy. And legitimacy silences doubters faster than any interview ever could. But here's the real test. Flashes are easy. Stacking performances, That's different. Can he replicate that composure against elite pass rushes? Can he sustain rhythm when defenses disguise looks? Can he respond when the game script turns chaotic instead of comfortable? Because once teams have tape, they adjust. That's when real quarterbacks emerge. Right now, trajectory is pointing upward. But trajectory only matters if it continues climbing. And Cleveland hasn't had that kind of upward curve at quarterback in decades. Which makes what comes next even bigger. Here's the truth nobody in Cleveland wants to say out loud yet. This feels different. Not lucky. Not fluky. Different. For decades, Browns fans learned to guard their excitement. Every promising start eventually collapsed. Every "this might be the guy" conversation ended the same way. So naturally, there's hesitation. But hesitation fades when production stacks with presence. And that's what makes this moment dangerous, in a good way. Because if Shedeur keeps delivering with this kind of poise, this stops being a feel-good rookie story and starts becoming a franchise shift. Look at how the defense is playing. 10 sacks in that Raiders game. Relentless energy. That's not random. Defenses feed off belief in their quarterback. When they trust the offense won't waste their effort, they attack harder. They gamble smarter. Confidence spreads fast in NFL locker rooms. And right now, Cleveland's locker room feels aligned. Receivers are running routes sharper. The sideline body language looks different. The stadium energy feels louder, not forced, but earned. When a franchise finally stabilizes at quarterback, everything accelerates. Play calling expands. Free agents pay attention. Media narratives flip. That old quarterback graveyard label, it starts sounding outdated. But here's the ultimate question hanging over all of it. Can momentum turn into championships? Because talent builds excitement. Consistency builds contenders. Championships demand both, plus resilience when adversity hits. The early signs are promising, the spark is real, the numbers are moving, the ratings are climbing, the belief is returning. But legacies aren't built in one debut. They're built in what comes after the spotlight fades. And now, the entire league is watching to see if this is the beginning of Cleveland's next era, or just another chapter in a long story. The difference this time: trajectory is winning. And that changes everything. What makes this moment so powerful isn't just the win. It's what it represents. For nearly 30 years, Cleveland was the cautionary tale, the city where quarterback hope went to disappear, the franchise that could draft talent but never stabilize the most important position in sports. Now, the narrative is shifting in real time. Shedeur Sanders wasn't supposed to be the headline this early. He wasn't drafted to save a franchise overnight. He wasn't penciled in as QB1 when the season began. But football doesn't wait for blueprints. It rewards readiness. And when opportunity showed up unexpectedly, he didn't hesitate. He didn't shrink. He didn't look like a fifth-round project trying to survive. He looked like a quarterback building control. That's why ratings jumped. That's why jerseys are selling. That's why primetime rumors are already swirling. The NFL runs on attention, and attention follows belief. Cleveland suddenly has both. But here's the real test. Defenses will adjust. Coordinators will study the film. The spotlight will get hotter. Now it becomes about stacking performances, turning flashes into habits, turning hype into proof. Because in this league, the difference between a viral moment and a franchise cornerstone is consistency. The Browns don't need another spark. They need sustainability. And if Shedeur keeps playing with this level of poise, control, and resilience, Cleveland might not just be trending. They might be transitioning from rebuilding project to legitimate threat. The curse feels broken. The energy feels real, and the rest of the NFL is paying attention. The only question left: is this the beginning of something historic, or just the first chapter of a wild ride? Because one thing is certain: Cleveland isn't background noise anymore.